How's it going, everyone? So we have this blower here, but that's not the reason why you clicked on this video. You want to know how you can make money selling blowers. Well, sit back down, relax, let's go have a conversation. Warning, there's a lot of talking and not a whole lot of working, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, so first things first, this is a handheld blower. There's two types of blowers, handheld and backpack. I guess there's like push, but we're not talking about those. We're talking smaller ones. And as long as it's complete, as long as you don't spend a whole lot of money on it, there potentially is some earnings you could be made. But let's go over a couple potential pitfalls. I suppose the first pitfall that you could definitely get into is a blown motor. That's never a good thing to have, obviously. So when you do purchase, or if it's free, if you pull on the pull cord and it feels like there's little to no compression, then don't even bother. These machines, especially if it's like this, and we'll get into branding here shortly, unless it's like a big backpack blower, they're really not worth a whole lot of money to people, especially this one. This is a run-of-the-mill, cheap Craftsman. I don't remember how much they are brand new, $129, $169. Maybe they're $219 now. Prices of things are going up in different directions everywhere. But anyway, but let's say you're going to spend like 40 bucks on this broken. If you end up having to put another $40, $50 worth of parts in there, and at least in my area, I would be lucky to get $100 for this. Lucky. More likely than not, it's going to be for 80. So I'm spending 40 bucks for it. Half my profit's already gone. So that's not a good thing. So the first pitfall is check for the motor, and the other one is check for missing parts. Now, I'm going to discuss how I would go about buying this. And we'll talk about backpack blowers here shortly too. But if this was super cheap, I'm talking 20 bucks or less, if I saw it was complete, the engine had compression, and the only thing that I suspect I'm going to have to do is maybe a air filter, some fuel lines, and a carburetor cleaning. Now, I'm going to say that word very carefully, cleaning. Even though a cheap carb on Amazon or eBay or wherever is cheap, it still is taking away from your money. So a diaphragm, especially if you have like a lot of them already, or you just buy a kit, is significantly cheaper. So if you're going to be doing this routinely, buying a couple diaphragms, they're like $8 for like 8. That's $1. That's better than a $10, $12, $15 carburetor. Not as easy, but it's going to be better. So now I have $21 into this spark plug, $3.50. Let's say $25 now. Fuel lines, if you buy it in bulk, let's say you're going to be spending a couple bucks on it. Let's say 30 bucks total. I can make $50 on this. That's not horrible, as long as I'm not driving too very, very far. This I would not go out of my way to drive. Now, if I was, for instance, I'm in the Northwest, so I'm very close to Portland. I don't live in Portland, but let's say there are situations where I will work in Portland. If I find this there, and I'm already working, I might as well pick it up on my way home. So that's not a horrible idea. Now, if I was already home and I wasn't working, or if I never worked there, then no, that would not be an idea of mine to go and drive that far, spend like 20 bucks worth of gas just to get there. So that's another expense you have to be worrisome on, is the travel time and travel expense to get something. But if it's local, or if you're already in the area, not a bad thing. Branding and type. As much as I hate to say this, people love steels. So if it's a steel, you can, and if you can get it for a decent price, you can make some money. The steel equivalent to this, I could easily sell for 120 bucks. So if the same scenario came by, I'm spending 20 bucks on the steel version of this, and at that point, to be honest, I probably would maybe travel a little bit farther, not much, but a little bit. Yeah, you can make a little additional money. So branding is definitely important, because if it's just a Craftsman, a pull-on, Husqvarna, however you want to say it, you know, those, not so much, but definitely a Steel. An Echo is also another one that's worth it. I can sell the Steel and Echoes all day long, 120 bucks, no problem, easy. You know, my preference on it, I'd much rather have the Echo personally, but that's just me. So branding is important. And type. I'm saying 80 bucks for this. Now, if it was a big backpack blower, usually you don't see anything besides the major three. You see Steel, Echo, and Red Max. I would only do those. I've had situations where Craftsman makes like a smaller backpack blower. It's basically this, except you wear it on your back. Complete trash, don't even bother. Same rules apply for that one. But we're talking like an 8500 or a BR 800, or, you know, whatever, you know, any of those 800 models, of course. I can easily sell those for $350. That's Steel. And if it's fall time, that number goes up by $100 easy. So when calculating if it's going to be worth it, consider the type. Handheld are never going to make you as much money. Backpack blowers are where it's at. Now, those don't come without any risks. You still come up with the same risk. You still come up with the same price issues. So just know that just because you can't make more money doesn't really afford you much more leeway, because the parts might be more expensive. You might be needing more parts because it's a more complicated machine. So do your due diligence. But if you are going to be buying a used backpack blower, I would definitely look at the major three only. And in addition to that, make sure it's complete. And same thing, engine. If the engine's good and it's complete, as long as it doesn't look like it fell out of the back of a truck a few times, or some kid decided to spray paint a bunch of crap on it, then it's fine. Decent condition, complete, hasn't started for a while, that's okay. Now, if it's a really, really good deal, we're talking like, still backpack blowers, by the way. You see a 8500, or let's just say a BR 800, and the motor's blown, don't do that one. Not a good idea. BR 800, you can't just buy individual parts. You have to buy the whole motor, and those are expensive, and that eats basically all your profit. Even if you get it for free, it's like 320 bucks for the whole engine assembly, plus your time and money to go pick it up and repair. Don't do that. But if you have like an Echo or a Red Max, then go right ahead. And even if there isn't compression, if you're getting a smoking good deal on a pretty new mower, or new blower, it's not a bad idea. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this happen. Dude or dudette goes to the store, buys a new blower. Maybe they live on an acre, have a bunch of oak trees, and they spend, a couple $100 on it. They get home, they put their full tank of fuel in their blower. I can't talk today. And then it's running just fine. A minute later, it's getting a little weird. A minute and a half later, it's basically turning off, if it's even lasted that long. They took it back to the dealer because the dealer obviously sold them a defective machine, just to have the dealer tell them, wait a minute, there's no oil in this fuel. They're like, what? Why would I put oil in the fuel? It's gas. Then they realize it's kind of their fault. So what do? Then they're going to take it home, put it on the internet for like $100. When no one wants to buy it because it's a blown motor, then they'll either put it for very cheap, $20-$40, or even free. In that case, that is the $20 to $40 completely acceptable in my mind to rebuild a Echo or a Red Max. Not a Steel. Too expensive. You can buy individual parts for both of those, and they're cheaper. And a lot of them even have aftermarket parts. Not condoning that. I'm just saying they do have aftermarket cylinder heads and everything else. So that could be a good way to make some money, because you can spend like 120 bucks on a free backpack blower that's fairly large and still make 150, 200 bucks on it. No problem. Which brings me to another part about that. Engine size. With these here handhelds, you're really not going to see much more than like 25, because for one of two reasons, or one of main reason being is that it's just going to get heavy. I mean, what person wants to be walking around with a 70cc handheld blower? Not to mention, if you ever used a backpack blower, you literally have to hold the tube so it doesn't go flying. So if you're going to be doing a 70cc handheld, man, that's going to be a undertaking, to say the least. You know what I mean? So it's going to be smaller. Backpack blowers, they will have a little bit of a difference on it. They will be a little bigger, a little smaller. I personally would only recommend the big ones. Let me explain why. The smaller ones you can usually find for pretty decent brand new, and even when they're, yeah, pretty much you're going to be spending the same amount of money to repair them as it would cost for you to be repairing an 800, and let's say a BR 800 or a big 75cc engine. So if you're going to buy like a 40cc and this repair bill is going to be the same, or parts bill is going to be the same as a 75, already on paper that 75 is more appealing to your buyer than the other one. And you're not going to make as much money because, one, like I said, the parts more or less going to be the same price, maybe a little cheaper on occasion, but your amount of profit's already going to be lower. So you're going to be eating some profit. Now, if, is that always going to happen? No, but that takes me to another point. That point being, before you go and look at a machine, now I'm assuming you're buying it. You don't have people coming to you dropping stuff off that are going to just give it to you. You're going to want to do like a general price list. You're going to want to look up tune-up parts, that's for sure. You always want to have a tune-up before you sell it. You're going to want to look up general parts, so like if you know like a tube's missing, how much a tube is, if what you know for a fact. And then at the end of the day, I would almost always include a carburetor kit if you don't have them, or aftermarket carb. A lot of times they're at the same price. Or, I mean, technically, the ideal way would just be carburetor kit, because a lot of those are genuine. At least I would highly recommend getting a genuine one, because if you're going to be spending the money, it's a better idea to put genuine parts in there. And it's going to last longer. And it's going to be a genuine carb. So get an idea of how much it's going to be, because if you have no idea, and let's say you see a lightly used Red Max 8500 missing a tube, and all of a sudden you like, oh, perfect, you realize, oh, the motor's blown, I better buy a new motor. Oh, the tube is like 80 bucks. Oh, the tube is cracking. That's like another 60 bucks. Oh, the carburetor is super difficult and I lost that little spring. Oh, I better buy a new carburetor. Things can add up fast. And if you didn't take into account the crack in the tube and everything else, the other things, you're going to have to buy anyway. But if you didn't know the tube was 80 bucks, then that's just profit you lost. So, but if you're getting it for a good price, then you're making up that profit. Maybe they have it listed for like 100 bucks, and you offer them 50, knowing that still have to. You save 50 to spend 80. That's only $30 difference. You can live with that. At least I can. So keep in mind what your parts costs are going to be before you buy it. That is a very dangerous thing to kind of get yourself into. It's the quickest way to lose money. So I'm going to walk you through how I would purchase this blower. Now, I personally would not spend more than 20 bucks for this. What I do is this. I look it around. I check to see if the exhaust is hot, because if the exhaust is hot, it means it's already been ran, and that's a good sign for me. I pull on the pull cord. I feel the compression. I don't hear anything weird. It doesn't feel grindy. It doesn't feel weird. It doesn't have, like, the pull cord isn't stuck. And I asked the person, what's wrong with it? Oh, I just put new fuel lines in, it won't start, so I just bought an electric one. Perfect. I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm gonna need new fuel lines anyway. That was part of my cost analysis. I already kind of knew I was gonna have to rebuild the carburetor. That's part of my cost analysis. The motor's good. Everything's complete. Here you go, sir. Ma'am, here's my 20 bucks. Thank you. Sayonara. And that's it. Now, if I got there and all of a sudden the pictures are completely wrong and I notice, there's like a crack in the tank, to be honest, I just walk away. I mean, it's a waste of time, a waste of fuel, but that's about it. But just because something's complete doesn't mean I won't have to replace anything. So do a very good once over. Make sure, even though it looks good, that there's nothing weird about it. There's a reason why it's cheap, and some people just don't want to deal with it anymore and they put it for cheap. That's completely fine, and that's okay. You're going to find these all day long because of a couple reasons, but the main reason is repair shops, if they take them, which some of them won't, it's going to be like 100, 120 bucks. Easy. Minimum, just to have them repair a leaky fuel line maybe, or rebuild a carb. Assuming they even rebuild it, they might even just not even go down that avenue and just insist on buying an OEM carb. Well, now you're at 180, 200 bucks. OEM carbs are not cheap. You might as well just buy a new one at that point. So people understand that, and they put it on the internet for 20 bucks or 40 bucks, thinking someone who's mechanically inclined can take it off their hands. They're not out all as much money.